Bore da, prynhawn da neu noswaith da. Here we are again. And this time, having recorded about, 63 songs, something like that, I thought perhaps time for a change. So, I thought I'd play something. So I'm going to play a piece of music. And when you were younger, I'd probably ask you whether you thought it was perhaps a happy piece, a sad piece, a scary piece, or maybe a peaceful piece, or something like that. But now you might be able to come up with better descriptions. You might be able to say how the piece makes you feel and use bigger words perhaps. Think of interesting ways of describing how it makes you feel. Imagine perhaps you had to write a poem about the piece and how it makes you feel. What pictures come into your mind? If you were watching a television program, what would be happening in the program while the music was going on? Also, you might be able to hear little things that keep coming back in the music. You might be able to say if it's been made up of lots of different parts. It might be like a musical sandwich. Do you remember we used to do that where we had one bit, usually an exciting bit, and then we had a slightly boring bit in the middle, and then there was an exciting bit again at the end. Maybe it's like that. So have a little think about that. And after you've listened to it, I'll tell you a little bit about the piece and who wrote it and all that. But for now, just give it a good listen to, like you did when you were younger as well. Try and come up with anything you can about the piece, how it makes you feel, particularly how it makes you feel, but also pictures that come into your mind. Sometimes, of course, I would ask you perhaps what instruments you can hear, but there's only one instrument in this, so there's not a lot of point asking you that really, and you'll probably see the instrument as well. So, but just have a little listen to it and see how it makes you feel. So, what did we make of that, I wonder? If you have difficulty thinking of things, of course you could still go back to the old infant answer. So we obviously know that this is quite a slow piece, don't we? So we could say it's nice and slow. Well, it could be describing something slow, couldn't it? I wonder what it could be describing that's slow. Could it be describing a slow animal? Are there slow animals that are moving? A big bird in flight, perhaps, very gracefully flying around. Maybe a river or something like that. Maybe a slow, majestic river. Could be all sorts of things. I often get dinosaurs and things. If you could have a nice, slow and graceful dinosaur, that would be lovely. What about the piece coming back? What about the tune? We had this nice tune, didn't we? Remember this tune? But then we had something like this. Remember that bit? So that was different, wasn't it? And then what happened after that? We went back to our tune again, the first tune. And then at some stage, I remember I got quite excited. It was going to... I can't remember exactly how it went, but it was something like that, wasn't it? Something like that. So again, it was getting exciting there. So that possibly wasn't this slow, majestic animal anymore, was it? This was more exciting, and then eventually it went back to that one again, didn't it? But then maybe I played it faster this time. I think I probably did. Is this sad, by the way? What if I play it like this? Is that sadder? And then, I expect you'd like to know who wrote this piece, wouldn't you? And it's by, I think, the greatest of all time. A lot of people think he's one of the best composers ever, ever, ever. And his name was Beethoven. Indeed, he was born in a place called Bonn. I'm sitting in front of Bonn right now. And he was born a long time ago. Last year, we were celebrating, he was 250 years old. Last year, in 2020. So I wonder if you can work out when he might have been born. And he was born in, as I said, in Bonn, which is in Germany. His dad was a musician. He wasn't very successful, really, his dad. He always wanted to be more successful than he was. And in fact, by the time Beethoven sort of was in his teens, he was earning more money, really, and was able to look after his family better than his dad had been able to. But his dad did make him practice the piano a lot. He made him practice sort of 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day, 7 hours a day, something like that. That's a lot. And he had, I think he had about 7 siblings, Beethoven. But he wrote some great pieces. He wrote a piece for a girl called Elise. He called it For Elise. It's this one that goes... But he wrote that for the piano, but he also wrote pieces for the orchestra. There's a very famous piece that he wrote that goes like this. Something like that. Something like that. So that's a symphony, and if you remember, a symphony is this big piece of music, long piece of music, and it's chopped up into bits, and they call the bits movements. So this piece, that's his 5th symphony. It's the way the 5th symphony starts, and it's a great, really exciting piece. I think people in those days, when they first heard it, they thought it was very odd, because it's not really a tune, is it? It's not really a tune, and then it goes, and it stops, and then it goes... And then it stops again. So very strange piece. In fact, in his Ninth Symphony, which is his longest symphony, he's even got singers in it. They sing. And it's got that famous tune that goes... This is the ninth one now. So fifth one, ninth one, and the ninth one was his last one. He didn't write any more after that. One of the composers he really admired a lot was a man called Mozart, and he wanted to have lessons with Mozart, but unfortunately Mozart died before he could really have lessons with him. But he did meet him once. His boss sent him off to Vienna. Vienna was like a capital sort of centre for music. I mean, it was an amazing place. Vienna is in Austria, a very, very important country. And there were all these musicians went to Vienna, and of course they met each other and they performed to each other and they got ideas from each other. So and that's where Beethoven apparently met Mozart. In fact, he played to Mozart, and Mozart heard him and thought that Beethoven was really, really good, and said that the world had better watch out, because Beethoven was going to create quite a stir when he got a bit older. So, as I said, Mozart died, so Beethoven wasn't able to have lessons with him. So he went to a chap called Haydn. And they were quite fiery, these two, Beethoven and Haydn. So they didn't have lessons together for very long. But Beethoven learnt a lot from Haydn, particularly when it came to writing pieces of music for a thing called a string quartet, which is where you have two violins, a viola and a cello. There was a big sadness in Beethoven's life, which was that when he was about 26, he started to lose his hearing. This obviously, for somebody doing music, is a huge problem if you can't actually hear. And of course, Beethoven used to play the piano with orchestras and things, so he wasn't able to do that after a while because he couldn't really hear the orchestra. And there's a very sad tale that he was apparently conducting his Ninth Symphony, by which time he was completely deaf and he couldn't hear the orchestra at all, and so they had to have somebody else really conducting it, and the orchestra weren't following Beethoven, they were following this person behind him. And the story goes that the audience thought the piece was absolutely brilliant and they were stamping and clapping and everything. Of course, Beethoven couldn't hear any of this, so somebody came and turned him round, and then he could see the crowd going absolutely mad. So that was his last symphony, the Ninth Symphony. Beethoven died in 1827, so you might like to work out how old he was when he died. He was born in 1770, which I expect you worked out, didn't you? It was 250 years ago, more or less, last year anyway. And then he died in 1827. And loads of people came to his funeral. They say that about 20,000 people came to his funeral. One of the things I forgot to tell you, because of course some of you play the violin or you play the piano or you play a musical instrument. Well, Beethoven started when he was 4 years old. That's quite young, isn't it? It's 4 years old. So I think his dad was really hoping that his son would become very, very good. And when he was learning the piano and the violin and the viola, because he learned all these instruments, he particularly played the music of people like Bach and Handel. These were composers that were around a good time before Beethoven then, Bach and Handel. But his favourite was Mozart, and so he must have been really pleased to have met Mozart, and very, very sad that Mozart then died before he could have lessons with him. So there we are. If you get a chance to listen to more Beethoven, do listen to it. There's loads of his stuff on Spotify. As I said, he wrote some really famous pieces, not just the ones that I've played to you, but there are some really famous ones. He wrote a Moonlight Sonata that goes like this. Have you heard that one? And he also wrote one that goes something like... So some lovely, lovely music. So there we are. Beethoven, born in 1770 and he died in 1827. And tune in next week and hopefully I'll have a new piece for you and another composer for you to listen to. Bye.